Senior Bowl's this week. Coming up in a few days anyway. Starts next week, but within the 7-day period, we'll be doing Senior Bowl stuff. So, Traps, I'll start with you. I think the easy question is quarterbacks, but what will you be looking for? Could be quarterbacks, could be something else. What are you most interested to see how it unfolds after 3 days of practice?
I'm really excited about the tight end group. Like this class in general, and it feels like, unless I'm completely forgetting someone, it seems like all the best tight ends in this class will be in Mobile for the Senior Bowl. Like Charlie Kolar from Iowa State, Jeremy Ruckert, who's a great 3-down blocker / receiver from Ohio State, Trey McBride, who had over 1,000 yards at Colorado State this past year, Isaiah Likely, who is this kind of H-back underneath yards after the catch type of player at the tight end spot from Coastal Carolina. It's a really deep tight end class. And again, I just feel like all the best ones are there during the week in practice, seeing them, in those one-on-one drills against linebackers, even when they have to face safeties, like how well are they separating? Are they using their bodies well? Even Cole Turner from Nevada is another one that plays above the rim, great in those contested catch situations for your boy Carson Strong over the past couple of years. I think the tight end group, and we've kind of seen that there's been more of a shift in the NFL toward this upper echelon group that it's Rob Gronkowski still playing well. You have Darren Waller recently. Mark Andrews entered the conversation. There's a nice group of athletic pass catching tight ends. I'm not saying we're going to see the next Travis Kelce and the next Mark Andrews in this draft class, but it's probably the best tight end group that we've had in 3 or 4 draft classes, and they're all going to be at the Senior Bowl.
Well, to your point, a few years ago, Harrison Bryant was at I think he was at the Senior Bowl. He was certainly at the Combine.
Yeah.
Incredibly athletic. I think he went in the 4th round to Josh's Browns. He's a pretty good player, wouldn't you say, Josh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I love his game. He had a lot of drops his final year with Lane Kiffin, and we asked him about that at the Combine, I remember, and he just said they were focus drops. I don't think he's struggled with that now that he's been in the NFL. But these athletic tight ends are becoming more and more prevalent. So I just watched Trey McBride last week, and I was blown away.
He's good, man. He's really good. He could go in the first round. How
much fun. I had him going in the first round finally.
Yep.
And it looks dopey because it was right after Mel had McBride going in the first round. And I get it, whatever, it happens. I had him going to the Buccaneers, I believe, because Gronk's on the last year of his deal, and this was before Tom Brady was sort of waffling on whether he's going to return or not. But he will block you into the stands, and then he gets open regularly. I don't want to call him Baby Gronk. He reminds me of a better version of Vance McDonald in terms of the way he's built. And then he's just crushing guys. And I'm with you on Isaiah Likely. He's only 240. That's what he's listed at. He will also block you into the stands. He plays with an edge. Greg Dulcich is another guy at UCLA. Who's a fun guy to watch. Our guy Brian Tully, the producer for CBS Sports HQ, who is a big Ohio State guy, loves Ruckert. He says Ruckert's going to be a much more versatile player in the NFL than he is at Ohio State, just because he wasn't used for much other than, again, blocking folks. So this blocking class feels pretty deep. Grant Calcaterra is going to be there, retired after Oklahoma State, transferred to SMU. He's more of a downfield guy. I'm with you on the tight end class. That's a good call. What do you think, Josh? What are you going to be most interested in seeing?
Yeah, I love the tight end class too. I think Baby Gronk may be in one of the next 2 classes with either Notre Dame's Michael Mayer or Georgia's Brock Bowers, who look sensational this year. I think both those guys are going to be fantastic prospects. But focusing on this class, I'm excited to see this offensive tackle group, this offensive line class that is headed to the Senior Bowl, because it's a lot of small school guys that are going to have an opportunity to prove themselves against Power 5 competition. So you've got Matt Waletzko from North Dakota. You've got Trevor Penning from Northern Iowa. You've got Dylan Parham. You've got Cole Strange, Nick Sikelich from Fordham. You've got the guys from Central Michigan with Bernard Raymond and Luke Gedeke. And there's just a ton of small school offensive linemen that are headed to the Senior Bowl. And I'm excited to see how those guys stack up against the competition, because what we saw a year ago with Quinn Miners out of Wisconsin Whitewater is how he held his own against that level of competition. So I think there's a great opportunity there for some of these guys to prove themselves as well.
Yeah, and I think the lesson from what Quinn Miners did last year was to wear a cutoff shirt with nothing underneath it to send a message early on. I was talking during the pre-draft process after the Senior Bowl and before the draft actually took place, me and Debo talked to Levi Owens-Enrique, who played at Washington, opted out last year, was at the Senior Bowl, and he had a few one-on-ones with Miners, and he said he was shocked at how quick he was. I think he played guard this year for the Broncos because
he played well.
Right, and they have the kid from LSU. That's their center, is that right?
Cushenberry, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Cushenberry.
Right. So absolutely, you can go there, and I don't know if anyone made more money for themselves than Quinn Miners because he didn't play because of COVID in his final year. He went to Wisconsin Whitewater, I believe.
Yeah,
and he came out there and just absolutely balled out and was a top 100 pick. And you're right, Josh. There are a ton of guys that have a chance to really differentiate themselves. Let's see. Yeah, I'm speaking of offensive. He's a tackle, but he's gonna kick inside, I think. I want to see what Zion Johnson does when he gets there. The kid out of BC, who I actually like a lot. Like, even though he's played tackle, he's more than held his own week in and week out. He's not getting blown off the ball. He's pretty strong at the point of attack. And those are the things I always think about this in the framework of how can this guy end up on the Steelers to help that piece of crap offensive line. And that's a guy that you draft in the second round. I feel like he feels like a second round pick to me, and then you put him in right away. So there are a ton of guys. You mentioned the kids from Central Michigan. I know some teams actually like Gedeke better than Raymond. I think Traps, you're with me. I love Raymond. I like him as a first round pick, but some teams have talked me out of it. I have to think about it. But from what I've seen,
the only issue is I think he's going to be like 25 years old shortly after the upcoming season starts. So
he's like Debo's fireman guy from Canada who's
so that's one of the issues. But there's Braxton Jones from Southern Utah. You've got Max Mitchell from Louisiana. Just a really talented class overall. Spencer Burford from Texas San Antonio.
Yeah, he's good.
Like I sometimes question, like, why do we see and hear from so many head coaches and GMs in Mobile that like outwardly say to the media, to the public, like, I really put a lot of priority into this week. I'm like, it's just a week of practice. Like, who cares? No one cares about the game apparently. But I think it's such a great platform for these Southern Utah, Northern Iowa guys to show that they can play. And definitely, to me, having been there a bunch of times, the one-on-ones with the offensive and defensive linemen, I think, are the most telling drills that anyone does during the week. Like, when it's offense or when it's wide receivers, corners, one-on-ones, they can run these intricate routes that would take 8 seconds in the game that they're never going to run in the game. The offensive defensive line drills are like legitimate, like what you're going to see on Sunday. So it's been an awesome experience for these younger or these guys from smaller schools that can show in front of every single team sitting there and all of us media members that they can play. And I think that's led to a lot of guys like Ali Marpet, Ben Barch, Quinn Miners last year going on day 2 or day 3 and then becoming really good NFL players.
Danny Watkins was the guy I was thinking.
Danny Watkins.
He went 23rd overall in the 2011 draft.
Howie Roseman said he never developed the innate toughness that he showed at Baylor, and it never materialized.
Okay, wow. Howie. Debo, here you go.
Howie.
Here's
questioning Howie Roseman.
Going deep on the Danny Watkins trivia. Can you tell me when Danny Watkins was drafted in 2010 in the CFL draft? How high did he go?
Oh, he was probably a second or third round pick there, not even a first.
No, he was 4th overall. I thought he was second or third overall. That was the year before the NFL draft, not the year after. 4th overall. Maybe should have started there. But hey, he's saving people's lives by fighting fires. All right, yeah. So I think the quarterbacks for me is the easy answer. I want to see how these guys stacked up. I just watched a bunch of Desmond Ridder, and I don't love Desmond Ridder. Josh, did you have him going in some first rounds in your mock drafts or no?
I have.
I don't know if I have or not, to be honest.
But
probably
you have
not.
Traps? All right, Traps, talk me into Desmond Ridder because he needs to do a lot of good things. And I here, let me just be clear. I watched him and I was frustrated by some of the things he did. I'm not going to start ranting and raving and stomping my feet like I did about Justin Herbert a few years ago, but just in case. I will say this, Traps, and I'll be interested to hear what you think about this, and then you can give me your scouting report as to why he could be a top 32 pick. If you squint, you can see a little bit of the Josh Allen athleticism. Like he can run, he's big, he's fast. He doesn't have Josh Allen's arm, but he has a good arm. He struggles with accuracy. His footwork is not great. And I just wonder in the back of my mind, okay, who can fix this guy? But he can't be a guy that comes in and plays right away, I feel like. But sell me on Desmond Ridder.
No, I think that's a pretty good scouting report, but I think from Patrick Mahomes to a greater example being Josh Allen, that there will be teams more willing to say, hey, his footwork isn't good. His accuracy needs to be fine-tuned, but we're okay with that because Desmond Ridder can get outside the pocket. He improvises pretty well. The fact that he was really experienced, I think, could go both ways, but some teams could say, hey, we already know what he is. He's a finished product. And others could say, we're glad that this is not a one-year wonder that has only seen a few different types of coverage at Cincinnati. And I think to the arm strength thing, his arm isn't great, but I think we all differentiate arm strength and arm talent. I think Desmond Ridder has pretty good arm talent, that he can be throwing on the run, rolling left, his base, his footwork can be bad and he can still make good throws. You just got to watch, to me, if you want to sell yourself on him being a first-round pick, watch the Notre Dame game. That Notre Dame had a bunch of, future NFL players on it, and he made a lot of difficult throws, when Notre Dame started to come back in that game, down the field, intermediate level, under pressure. So I think if scouts, GMs want to see you play against top competition on the road in a huge game against Notre Dame, I think Desmond Ridder was really good. And like we always say, after the first 2 or 3 quarterbacks go off the board late in round 1, whether a team trades up or a playoff contender wants just that future 2023 or 2024 starter, they might be interested in picking the quarterback position. And I would go with Desmond Ridder at that point.
Worth noting, the 4 games I watched, Cincinnati's offensive line was not great. I mean, this poor kid was running for his life constantly. He took a lot of hits in that Notre Dame game, for sure. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see how this goes. I don't want to crush the kid. He does a lot of things really well. I don't know if I would take him in the first round. And again, sort of in the framework of the Steelers, I wouldn't want the Steelers to draft him at 24th or whenever they're picking.